At our church, we don't think we're better than any other church out there. We're just doing our best to become our best. At our church, we want you to believe in God, but we also want you to know that God believes in you. We are not against people who don't attend church anywhere. Instead, we pursue them with love, the very same love that's pursuing us. At our church, we're learning to serve God with all our hearts, and we're learning to worship Him with all our lives. And if you're looking for the perfect church, we're not it. At our church, we will make mistakes, but we will choose to grow from them. At our church, we're part of a global community that's knit together by the resurrection of Jesus. And by the way, at our church, we believe that really happened too. At our church, we will engage with people who are in real need because we are the hands and the feet of Christ. And finally, we need you to hear this loud and clear. At our church, it's not really our church at all, it's His. And we live and move and breathe in His church for His glory and His fame, not ours. So here's the invitation. You're invited to jump in with your whole heart at your own pace and to experience the life that awaits you in Christ. Friends, this is going to be good. Welcome to our church.
Good morning, everyone. Let's stand and worship together. Sing and worship. We worship the God who was. We worship the God who is. We worship the God who evermore will be. He opened the prison doors. He parted the raging sea. My God, He holds the victory. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. We shout out Your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out Your praise. Oh, oh, oh. We shout out Your praise. We sing to the God who heals. We sing to the God who saves. We sing to the God who always makes a way. 'Cause He hung upon that cross and He rose up from that grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out Your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out Your praise. We were the beggars, and now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, and now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. And we'll shout out Your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. Yeah. We'll shout out Your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. We'll shout out Your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place.
excited to see you guys here on this amazing Sunday. We hope you had a fantastic week and that you have made the right choice coming here to start out this new week the best way you can. You've come to week 2 of our series we started last week, How to Get What You Really Want. That really part is so important, and we're going to continue to unpack that today and in the weeks to come, but we are honored that you guys are here this morning. When you walked in, you received this connection card. If you're online, you can also follow that link to fill this out. Do that throughout the service, and at the close of the service, I'll give you information as to what to do with it. Again, we're excited that you're here. We know God brought you here on purpose and for a purpose. As the team gets ready to continue to lead us in worship, and then Pastor Samuel will be up here, I would love for you guys to take a second, wave to your neighbor, high five your neighbor, hug your neighbor. If you're online, let us know you're there. Just greet each other this morning as we continue.
Been saved by the grace of God, amen. I have been raised to a future without end. I set my eyes on a true and loyal friend, the one whose life I'm hidden in. Oh, Jesus, oh, my hope in Jesus, love that never leaves us. You won't forsake us now, Jesus, faithful through the ages. All my joys the greatest, the one and only Jesus. I have a place in the family of my God. I will be named. When the saints go marching on, He is the prize, my salvation and my soul, the only one I'm counting on. Oh, Jesus, oh, my
in every word, 'cause the way I feel and the fear I'm facing doesn't change who you are or what you deserve. I give you my worship, you still deserve it. You're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy of my song. I'll pour out your praises in blessing and breaking. You're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy of my song. Yes, you are, Jesus. You're worthy. I'm gonna live like my King is risen. Gonna preach to my soul that you've already won. And even though I can't see it, I'm gonna keep believing. And every promise you made is as good as good. I give you my worship, you still deserve it. You're worthy, you're worthy, you're worthy of my song. I'll pour out your praises in blessings and breaking. You're worthy, you're worthy, Jesus, you're worthy of my song. You're worthy, you're worthy, Jesus, you're worthy of my song. You're worthy, oh, you're worthy. When I sat by that hospital bed, you were worthy, and she could barely lift her head. You were worthy. After all those tears were shed, you were worthy. I'll never stop singing your praise. I'll never stop singing your praise. In the blessing and the pain, you are worthy. Whether you say yes or no or wait, you are worthy. And through it all, I choose to say, you are worthy. I'll never stop singing your praise. No, I'll never stop singing your praise. And when you praise. I'll never stop singing. Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? I see lightning, I hear thunder. Something stirring 6 feet under. Dead things coming back to life again. I believe there's about to be another resurrection. I see signs and I see wonder. I see bursts of red. I see bursts of living color. And dead things coming back to life again. I believe there's about to be another resurrection. Come alive, wake up, sleeper. He is risen, and we are risen with him. Hallelujah, it is finished. Celebrate, nobody in it. Dead things coming back to life again. I believe there's about to be another resurrection. Oh, you're come alive, wake up, sleeper. He is risen. We are risen with him. Paradise from wide open. He is risen. We are risen with him. Come alive, wake up, sleeper. He is risen. We are risen with him. Paradise from wide open. He is risen. We are risen with him. Oh, come alive, Robert. Oh, you're worthy. If you see what I see, that the grave is empty, then you know what I know. Anything is possible. Do you see what I see? That the grave is empty, then you know what I know. Anything is possible. Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? I see signs and I hear wonder. Do you see what I see? I see lightning, I hear thunder. Do you see what I see? Something stirring 6 feet under. Come alive, wake up, sleeper. He is risen. We are risen with him. Paradise from wide open. He is risen. We are risen with him. Thank you for worshiping this morning. You may be seated.
My name is Steve, and I'm a businessman and an entrepreneur, and I'm also a cyclist. There's no greater feeling than being on an open country road, and I'm at peace. There was a time in my life when I was singularly focused on work, and it defined me morning, noon, and night. There were some things that were missing, and part of it was I was living a very unhealthy lifestyle. I woke up one day and I said, I want to do the hardest thing in the world, and that thing was the Hawaii Ironman. And I did it 7 times, and as is often the case in life, when you achieve something, you reset the bar. And now I want to get on the podium. And I don't know that I'll ever make it, quite frankly. I think the answer to that is no. But is that what I really want? Is it really chasing down those fears and self-doubt and all the other negativity that goes in and pushing through those barriers? Here's what I know. I know I don't have it figured out. But that's all kind of rattling around in the back of my brain.
All right. Hey, let's celebrate the band today. Celebrate our team. They do a great job, don't they? They are awesome. Hey, want to welcome you to the Fountains Fellowship. Happy New Year. If you just showed up, we are so excited that you are here today. Man, we're blessed. I want to welcome everybody online, wherever you are. Thank you so much for being a part of this experience. I know that you're here not by accident, but God brought you here this morning, and He wants to speak to your life. He wants to say some things to you. And what's very cool, and I'm just reminding you this, I do this all the time, but God doesn't really want anything from us. He wants something for us. He wants our lives. I really believe He wants us to be blessed. He wants us to feel passionate about what He's invited us to be a part of. And I think just so many things right now in my life, He just reminds me of all the goodness, right? All the things, the people that He's put around me, you guys, the people that we get to hang out. So don't ever underestimate the community that God has given you, because it's a real blessing. Do you believe that? Awesome. Well, today we are in week 2 of our series, How to Get What You Really Want. And we asked this question last week, and we're going to continue on. This is a 4-week series. And this, interestingly enough, the 4 weeks, it's very important that you stay connected to the 4 weeks, because it all kind of begins to compound on itself. And ultimately, in week 4, very much you get to see the fulfillment of where we're headed. I know that all of us this year, and every year at the beginning of the year, we look at New Year's resolutions and we think about things that we want for 2023. And I don't know if you're like me, but I kind of list out some things that I really want to see in my life and what God's doing in me and through me. And there's a lot of things. But we asked this question last week, and I'm going to ask it again today. And that is this: what do you want? And what we're doing is we're considering, what do we really want? What do we want for ourselves? What do we want for our family? What do we want for our jobs, our church, our community, for the world around us, for our economy? Like, these are important questions that I think we need to consider. And we're kind of diving deep into this, because I think about Jesus and how when He was on the earth and He was ministering and preaching and teaching and healing and delivering and doing all that He was doing, He very much would always get to the heart of people. He always wanted to dive down deeper. Well, today I want to continue to dive deep into this question of, what do we really want? Because I believe when we know that answer, it changes the direction. It changes the trajectory of our lives. And so I want us to consider that today, because last week we talked about the thought of wanting. What do we really want? And I said last week that I believe a lot of people just want their way, right? We want our way, don't we? Do you have kids? Anybody have kids? Like, do you know that children they are naturally selfish people. And I know some adults, don't point at any adult around you right now. But I know that there's selfishness that reigns kind of in our mind. When we wake up, the first person we think about a lot of times is maybe not our spouse, right? It's maybe ourselves, don't we? And I talked about last week that if we always get our way, that we will lose our way. If we always get what we always want, we will lose our way ultimately, because there are things that we get that we don't need to have. And so what we find is that what we really want, we miss out on because we've gotten our way every step of the way. You ever met somebody who always gets their way and it's just this self-centered way of living? Well, that's a difficult thing to consider. The other thing I talked about when it comes to wanting things and what we want is whatever it is, we ultimately want to do what we want to do. We don't really want anybody to tell us what to do. That's why we live in Texas. Do you know that? Like amen. There we go. We are the Lone Star State. Like we are our own entity. This is why people move to Texas. I think you want to have this independent thing of please, like it's my money. I will spend it however I want. It's my life. Don't tell me how to live. Like I want independence. I want whatever it is I want. Thanks, but no thanks. You know what I mean? I think that's kind of the sentiment here, especially in Texas. And I'm telling you, this is kind of where we're at. But listen, if we always do what we want to do, we will end up where we don't want to be. And I mentioned last week that there are things that, I remember praying for, hey, that girl there, she will be mine. Oh, yes, she will be mine. And what happened if she was mine? Like, what I would have missed out on the blessing that my wife, Nicole, has been to me and to you and to my family. And so I want us to make sure that we're wanting the right things. And if you always do what you want to do, you'll end up where you don't want to be. And I said this last week as well. Whatever it is that we want it now. Like we are so impatient at the grocery store, at the drive-thru, at Starbucks, wherever it is. Don't tell me I'm going to have to wait 5 minutes. How could you? You know what I mean? We find that we're just so focused on now. I told you before how Olivia Grace, when she was a little girl, we were driving home from church. It's like a 10-minute drive, right? And she's like, I'm so thirsty. And she's like starting to cry. And I'm like, Olivia Grace, it's okay. We're almost home. She's like, no, Dad, my throat is bleeding. And I'm like, baby, really? It's just reminded me of how we can be. I mean, we've got to be honest. But listen, if we get what we want now, we may not get what we really want later. So we're trying to help you with those wants, those desires, because I really believe that our culture, our media, our relationships, so many times, they don't talk about things that we really want. Many times, it's just we're following the leader of whoever's the loudest about what they want, the way they should live, and what they have, and we focus on all of these things so much so that we can fill our whole lives with these little wants and never really get to the place where we find what we really want and what we really need in this life. And I said this last week, I'm going to say it again. Lurking in the shadows of what we want is ultimately what we value. We learned that last week, that whatever it is you want when you wake up in the morning is what you hold very dear in your heart, is what's going on a deeper level. Whatever you buy, whatever you spend your money on, whatever time you spend during the day, whatever you're focused on is what you really value. And we can look at that because all of us, all of these wants are ultimately wrapped up in what we value in specific areas, like relationally. Like if you want to be single and you want to mingle, right? You want to just date for the rest of your life. That's a value for you. And so you are going to live your life in that direction. When it comes to commitment, thanks but no thanks, like that's not what I value. I value my freedom. And that's where people are. If for financially, if you value to be wealthy, you're going to work every day, and you're going to put a premium on that. Or maybe you don't care and you're going to live your life, paycheck to paycheck. That's a value that people have. They want to have the freedom to do whatever it is they want to do. Or maybe some of us want to be debt-free, and so every day we wake up, how can we save money? How can we pay off our debts? And how can we live with the freedom of being debt-free? These are all things that people value that in turn turns out into this thought of, I want this, I don't want that. For some of us, character. We think about the thought of what kind of person do we want to be? Like when people think of you, what do they think about you? For some of us, we wake up and we're like, listen, we want to be a good person. We want to be somebody that adds value to people. When I tell my kids to go to school, I don't tell them to go and get good grades and obey the teacher. That's all important stuff. But I want you to be kind, I want you to be encouraging, and I want you to look for lonely people. This is what we value in the McKern household. And so when they leave and I'm praying for them, my wife is praying for them as we pray together before they go walk into the school, we're going to be kind, we're going to be encouraging, we're going to look for lonely people. And everything else is going to work out. You might make a B in class. That's okay. As long as you love your teacher and honored and served them, as long as you were kind and helpful. Legacy. Some people don't ever think about what we leave behind. They're like, who cares? I'm going to be dead, right? I mean, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. And that's kind of the way that we can be sometimes about the legacy. But it's funny because I look at the Proverbs and it says, choose a good reputation over great riches. Being held in high esteem is better than silver or gold. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, there's some things that we can learn about the legacy that we should leave behind, or even the legacy that we are living right now today. And but the interesting thing about all of this is we will never get what we really want until we discover what we really value. And I'm going to say it again this week because I feel like we so many times don't ever really focus on the deep parts of what we really value because we're so busy living our lives in all the wants that are right in front of us. Some of us just want a break. You know what I mean? Some of us just want a raise. Some of us just want for there to be no traffic going to work today. You know what I mean? Some of us, and I feel like, and those are real wants, right? But that can overwhelm every step in every moment of my life. That I just want to get through the day with as minimal issues as possible so that I can get home and enjoy the game, right? Or enjoy my family, or spend time with my children. But I want you to know, this is why we're talking about this in church. This is why you're here today. Because I want you to understand that you've got to discover what's most important, what's really valuable. And the cool thing is I can't tell you what you really want. You can't just sit around and just, okay, well, what do they think? What should I do? You need to, for yourself, answer the question. What is it that you really want as a Christian? If you're not a Christian here, that's okay. We're helping and trying to give you some understanding. But as a Christ follower, we go from this idea of discovering what we really value to this. We will never get what we really want until we discover what is most valuable. And as a follower of Jesus, we believe that Jesus in our life is the most valuable thing because he came to do what you and I could not do, which is handle the issue of sin, which ultimately leads to death. And Jesus came, and we will see today what sin and death looks like. We will look at this issue, and the reason is because, and next week, trust me, next week we're going to talk about some things in a very different way than we are today. But we got to get through today to get to next week. So just bear with me. But today I want us to think about this, the idea of what is valuable in our lives. The idea of what we really want. Because the value that we place on things and people is really important to this equation. And I'll say it like this. Choosing valuable is unnatural. It's not natural for people to choose what is really valuable in life. What do I mean by that? I really believe that there's an internal conflict between what comes natural and what we really value. We'll say it again. There's an internal conflict in our lives, in our heart, between what comes natural and what we really value. And it's not an easy battle to win. Today I want to look at the Apostle Paul, a person that I believe says it best when it comes to the reality of the battle that you and I face every day. Now, why did we look at the Apostle Paul? Because before the Apostle Paul met Jesus and Jesus came into his life and changed everything about him, this guy was a Pharisee. He was a person that knew the law, knew the Torah, and tried to obey everything. But he was also a man who saw Jesus and saw all of his followers and said, I'm going to shut that down because that is out of control. Jesus is coming to say all these and do all these things and change everything that we believe. So much so that Paul, when we used to go out and try to imprison Christians and ultimately kill them. He would hunt them down. This guy was a bad guy. And yet one day he meets Jesus and everything changes. And so we see now how Paul, who writes over half of our New Testament Bible, he writes all of these letters to all of these churches, and he specifically dials down to a certain issue of this battle between what's natural and what is most valuable. What is natural and what we should really value in life. And he's speaking in this moment to a group of Roman people that in those days, 45 AD or 50 AD, Paul, had never been to Rome yet, and yet he's speaking to Christians that are following Jesus in Rome, and he's saying some things to them that they need to hear. And he's saying stuff to you and I today that we really need to hear about this battle. And he says this, and I believe for many of us, this statement right here is our life verse. And it says this in Romans 7:15. I do not understand what I do. Now, for some of you, you need to put that on your refrigerator. You need to put that on your mirror. You see that every morning, right? I mean, you tweet that, post that. He says, I do not understand what I do. And I'm like, dude, I can relate to that. You know what I mean? I can really relate to that because there are times I do things and I'm like, dumb. Sam, why would you do that? Why would you say, you guys know I have a big mouth, right? My wife will give me the look like, Sam, stop talking. And for some reason, when she gives me that look, I want to talk more. And I'm like, oh, I have yet to defile myself. You know what I mean? I will say things. And we all have these things where we look in the mirror and we're like, we are not the sharpest crayon in the box, you know? We should be better than that. We know better. And yet, Paul, this guy that has seen one side but has now seen Jesus and what he's doing in the world, says this, I do not understand what I do. And he goes on to say this, for what I want to do, I do not do. But what I hate, he says, I do. He says, what I want to do, what I really want to do, I don't do that. But what I don't want to do, I end up, what I hate to do, I end up doing it. Did you know that there's something at times that I really want, but I ultimately end up settling for something less than that and end up hating what I got? I remember I've told you guys before about the Bahama trip that we went on. Nicole and I, we weren't even married yet. Nicole and I and my sister and my family went to the Bahamas, and we got a really good deal. And we were like, yes, Lord, thank you. This was awesome. We get on the plane, and all the way there, it's storming and raining. And we finally get to the Bahamas, and it's constantly raining. The first day after we get there, we wake up, right? I'm like, we're going to the beach, party on, right? It rains. It rains for 7 days. We didn't know. that it was the raining season in the Bahamas. We wanted a good deal. Yes, Susan, we wanted a good deal. And we thought, Lord, he hooked us up. I'm cursing. Lord, how could, all of this money, this time, this effort. I thought it was a deal. Trust me. Hear me now. Learn from my stupidity, right? If it's a deal, it's not a deal. You get what you pay for, Like you need to make sure that you don't settle for something because you will end up being so upset and like you'll be kicking yourself like, why did I fall for that trick? Why did I not think about that purchase? Have you ever gotten home and you're like, why did I buy this? I didn't need this. I have 4 other ones in the closet. But in that moment, it was a deal. It was buy one, get one half off somebody. You know what I'm talking about. And so Paul, he's saying this. He goes, I know what you're feeling because I do the same thing. I ultimately do what I hate to do. And he says this, and if I do what I do not want to do, he goes, I agree that the law is good. He's essentially saying, I know what's right. Like I know what to do, and yet I ultimately do what I do not want to do. And this is a reality of all of us, is that, listen, we know we have something inside of our lives that says, don't touch that fire because it will burn me, right? And yet, what do? Oh, man, that fire is beautiful. We just, try to like, just a little bit. And all of a sudden, we find ourselves in a bad situation. And Paul is saying, man, I understand these things. And even Paul, who knows the law, he knows what is right. He is this religious Pharisee. This guy who wrote over half the New Testament is saying some things that we experience on a daily basis. And he says this, for I have the desire to do what is good. He's like, I really every day wake up, God, I want to do what you tell me to do. I want to be obedient to your voice. I want to hear you. I want to know you. I want to feel that love. I want to feel that wisdom. I want to know what to do. And I'm going to strive everything in my life to do what is good. What is that idea of good? It's the standard that stands outside of us that judges us. He says, I want to do this, but watch this. He says, but I cannot carry it out. For I do not do the good that I want to do, but the evil I do not want to do, this I keep on doing. Now, I don't know. I've been there. You've been here in this moment. We're like, I go to church every week. Like, I try to be a good person. And yet there are things in my life that comes up and it causes me, for whatever reason, to ultimately give in and do what I should not do. He says, the evil that I do not want to do. Now, what's his point? This is his point in this moment. He says, what we naturally want is often in conflict with what we ultimately want. See, we have these natural desires, these natural tendencies in our lives. All of us have them. And the problem is that what we naturally want is always going to be in conflict, many times in conflict with what we ultimately want, the deep desires in our heart. And this is why you got to understand, listen, we've all gotten what we naturally wanted and ended up with the very thing that we didn't ultimately want. We've all done this. Listen, I went to this place recently, maybe 6 months ago. Pastor Don and I don't remember who else was with us, but we went to this place in Glen Rose, Texas. Some of you have been there. It's called the Pie Peddler. Come on now, and they peddle pies, I'm telling you. We walk into this place like at 2 in the afternoon because we're like, hey, let's go check this place out. We get there, and I don't know about you, but like I don't like cake. I'm not a cake kind of guy. My mom makes amazing pies. I am a pie guy. And I walk in, and just the smell of this place alone, I'm like, this is not good because this smells amazing. I get in there, and the lady begins to tell us how she makes these every day. And they don't have just a few options, right? They have every option that you could think of. I mean, everything from like coconut cream pie, pecan pie, like strawberry rhubarb pie. They have cherry pie. They have lemon meringue pie, banana cream pie, chocolate cream. And I'm looking at all these things going, everything looks good here. I want everything. You know, like, how am I going to choose? I don't know what to do. So I'm like, hey, how about we just get like 3 or 4? We'll just kind of share and just, whatever. We'll just kind of eat, just a little bit, right? And so we begin to pick some of these. And she's like, if you buy 5 slices, we'll get you one for free. And I'm like, a deal? You know me. That's my kryptonite, Like, I want 5 and plus 1, that's 6. It's a party. And so I remember us getting all of these pies, and she's bringing them out. And then she's like, we have ice cream. And I'm like, shut up. Like, I want ice cream. I'm telling you, everything she said, I immediately said yes. I would cut her off. We have whipped cream. Yes. I want whipped cream. Like, whatever you got to make this even better, please, just bring out all the staff. Like, let's gather around. We can all share. I'll buy everybody a piece of pie in here. I'm telling you, it was ungodly. And I remember by the time I'm done, I find out that you can buy whole pies. And so I'm like, hold on. My family's got to enjoy this, So I remember, I think we bought 3 whole pies that day. And I was calling Nicole on the way home like, babe, you're not going to believe this. She's like, you spent how much money at the pie peddler? I'm like, they peddle pies. I find out that if we leave right now, we can get to the pie peddler in 42 minutes. Let's pray and just go. Field trip day for TFF, But I remember when I left, I'm out of money. I'm feeling completely guilty and bloated. I'm feeling like, why did I just do this? And if I'm honest, I live my life like that sometimes. That I just let it all go and realize what I ultimately wanted, I didn't get. In fact, I'm broke. And I've spent way too much money on things that I really didn't need. And this is kind of what Paul is talking about, but even in a more serious thing than just letting our appetites take control of us. He's talking about nature. He's talking about things that are natural and how that nature from a distance looks really good, but up close, it's dangerous. Up close, if we look at many of the natural nature things in this world, it's dangerous, it's harmful. Go to Africa on a safari, and all of these animals that you've seen in the zoo that were kind and encouraging, that's not the way it is. We roll right out and we see a lion devouring a wildebeest. Blood and guts and gore, and I'm like, that's not what I've seen at the Fort Worth Zoo ever. And yet I realize that nature is harsh. There's not generosity in it. Nobody's really kind. It's survival of the fittest. It's every man or every animal for themselves, and they are looking to survive. They're looking to do whatever it is they need to do to survive, and it's a dangerous place. It's a place where if you look at it, you see that there's no compassion. It's not fair. There's no fairness in that. We find a world when we look around where we don't see forgiveness a lot of times. We don't see grace and mercy so many times. You know what we see in the natural, naturally speaking, when it comes to humans? We see cheating, right? We see desires in our lives of lying, of racism, of adultery, of this me first. It's all about me, self-centered way of living, revenge. That's just to name a few. Like, these things are easy to do because we have this natural side in our lives that's always going to be at odds with what we most value, with what we really need in this life. Why? Because our nature is broken. We are born with a sinful nature that so much so is given to all of the things that really hurt us. Paul says it like this. he says to the Galatian church, he says, when you follow the desires of your sinful nature, the results are very clear. And I'll tell you, some of you don't like the word sin. Okay, let's take that out. When you follow the desires of your nature, the results are very clear. What does he mean by that? He goes, because he wants us to hear how clear these things are. And I think you can relate to some of these, if not all of these. He says this: sexual immorality, impurity, lustful pleasures. You ever felt any of these things? Has that ever been a part of your life? He goes on to say idolatry. What is idolatry? That means you put something in between your relationship to other people or your relationship to God, that you would rather worship a specific item or a relationship or a job over everything else. That's what an idol is. He said it equates to idolatry or sorcery. What is sorcery? That means having power over people. Have you ever met anybody whose desire was to be over and in control of everyone under them? That's called sorcery. He says that's prevalent in the world, in all of our worlds, that people would desire to lord over other people. He says that there is hostility, there's quarreling, there's jealousy. Have you ever been really mad when somebody that you know gets something really nice? And we start to get really like, oh, how could they? Or maybe when somebody fails at something, maybe we rejoice. See, they're getting what they deserve. You ever felt like that? But all of this is a product of nature. It's a product of our natural inclination. He goes on to say outbursts of anger, selfish ambition. Anybody ever been angry about anything? And we've just exploded because of something that maybe didn't go our way or something we expected. Dissension, division, envy, drunkenness, all of these things, he says, are very much a product of our natural desires and inclinations. And this is the interesting thing. Again, what we naturally want is often in conflict with what we ultimately want. And odds are, one or two or some or more of these things are the reason why we ultimately are not getting what we really want in life, because we've allowed some of these things to derail us. This is why I'm encouraging you today that we can actually live this life differently. I want to give you an understanding that there is good news, and we will dive into a lot of that good news next week, but understand something that God did and provided for you and I a way and an attitude and a heart and an understanding to not be all of these things, but we have the power of God in our lives to go and move past all of these desires. Will we wrestle with these? Most definitely. Paul said, I do what I do not want to do. We even looked last week at what James said, the brother of Jesus. And to me, if the brother of Jesus is going to say some things, I want to know what he says. And he says this because he uses this imagery about this same battle. And James says this in James 1:14, but each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. I want you to look at that. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away. And the thought here is that each of us, each person, when tempted, can ultimately be dragged away from doing the right thing. See, the idea here is that we want to do the right thing. And the only thing that's going to get us to not do the right thing is when something drags us away from doing that right thing and drags us ultimately to a place where we give in to those desires. Listen, it's a battle for all of us. I am not immune to it because of what I do. You and I every day have an opportunity to be dragged away by those desires, that will come and destroy. This is where all of us live. It's the valuable versus the natural. It's a struggle. We didn't want to go, but we were dragged away. I knew what I wanted, but then she showed up. Dragged me away. I knew what I wanted, but then he showed up at the gym, and it changed everything. I knew what I wanted, but I got afraid, and fear and anxiety came into my life, so it stopped me from doing what I really wanted, what I ultimately needed, what I knew that I was supposed to do, and yet something came in and dragged me away. And James says this, then after desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, gives birth to death. The understanding is that sin kills stuff. Sin will always kill. And when it is full grown, it kills dreams. It kills lifestyles. It kills the ability to do everything that you were created to do. And this is what James is telling us. He's saying that sin has the potential to kill everything good in your life. And ultimately, we end up hating ourselves. And this is why when James says the next thing, this is what I want to leave us with today. Because I don't want to go further yet, because next week we're going to dive into even deeper areas. But James tells us this. He says, everybody listen to me. It's almost as if he pulls 2,000 years ago, he's sitting there with no electricity, right? He's sitting there by the candle, and he's writing this letter. And this letter goes 2,000 years later through all of time and gets to you and I. And it's almost as if he picks us, he says, stand up, and he grabs us by the collar. And he says, listen, I'm going to tell you one thing, and you better hear it. He says this to you and to me. He says, don't be deceived. My dear brothers and sisters, please, you've seen what it looks like, the sin, our sin nature. We can look around every day and see all of these things. That's why he's coming to me and you, and he's going, today, don't be deceived. You have a decision to make every day of your life to say no to the sin and the death that wants to destroy you. You have every day an opportunity to be dragged away by many of the things that we see on a daily basis. But I really believe that God has given us a better way. God, the Father, stepped in to human history, and he sent Jesus to point us back to a new way of living. And I want you to ask yourself these questions this week, because next week when we come back, I'm going to answer some of those things and help guide you a little bit more. But I want to ask these questions. I want to present these questions to you for you to consider today. 3 questions this week. What do I really want? You need to know that. You need to begin to consider that every day you wake up. What do I want from this day? Number 2, what's dragging me away? Be honest. You don't have to be honest with your neighbor. You don't have to be honest with your spouse. Be honest with God. He knows. What is dragging me away? And number 3, how long do I plan to let what I naturally want drag me away from what I ultimately want? I want you to bow your heads with me this morning. You know, while this message is very clear from Paul and from James that we have a sin nature, this week we saw what happened with a NFL football player, Buffalo Bill, player Damar Hamlin and how when he dies on the field, good people get busy helping those around them. We see what happens when good prevails. We see what happens when good people don't stand idly beside, but these people stood up and they prayed. And they took life into their hands by taking it to God. We saw people pray on ESPN to God for help. And I want to tell you that, make no mistake, God is our source of life. And he sent Jesus, his son, to give us new life, to give us new hope. And he did what we could not do. For some of you online or some of you in this room, you've been dragged away too many times. And what's so great is that we have a God that loves us enough to go, it's okay. I didn't come to help you because you were good. I came to help you because I love you. And if you pray a simple prayer today of salvation, I believe God is going to begin to come into your life and heal you and encourage you and give you the strength and wisdom to face what you're facing right now, but to do it with a new attitude and a new heart and a new understanding that he will love you, that he will guide you, that he will come in and do what you could not do for yourself. But it starts with a simple prayer of putting your faith and trust in Jesus. I want you to repeat these words of salvation with me. Say, dear God, I believe there's a heaven and I believe there's a hell. I believe, Jesus, you died on the cross and rose again to save me of my sins and save me from hell. I know that I'm a sinner. Please forgive me. Come into my life and change me from the inside out. In your name I pray. Amen. Dear Lord, I lift up as we close today, as my wife comes up, we lift up all of these amazing people to you. Thank you for making very clear the battle that rages in our lives every day. And I'm so thankful, God, that you've given us answers. And over these next few weeks, you will continue to provide strategies and a real clear understanding of what you've given us in you. And Lord, I pray this week, God, as we question, what do we really want? Lord, that you would allow us to grow in our understanding of you and our understanding of the direction that we're headed. And God, I pray for clarity of mind and of heart, knowing that you are in control of our lives every step of the way. I thank you for helping us, giving us the wisdom and the strength and the courage to face what we're going to face this week. We love you. We thank you. In Jesus' name, everybody said, amen. Come on, let's celebrate Jesus today.
Amen. If you prayed that prayer of salvation with Pastor Samuel, if you would take this connection card you received when you walked in, or if you're online, follow that link, fill it out, check that box that today you prayed to receive Christ as Savior. You'll take it straight out the doors to our First Steps table, where we have that new believers packet for you. It's full of information on what your next step is now that you've made the best decision you will ever make in your entire life. As well as if you are a first-time guest here in person or online, we would love to know about it. We want to just say thank you for coming, and we want to give you a gift. So you'll take the same card, fill it out, and check that box that you are a first-time guest. Take it to that table if you're here in person, or just submit it if you are online. Lots of announcements, and I'm going to run through them really fast so that you guys can get on your way. But we're honored that you guys were here, and remember, we say it every Sunday, but we honestly believe that you were here on purpose and for purpose. The Lord is speaking to you because he has big, amazing plans for you, and he cares so much about you that he would wake you up on this Sunday to get you here to come and hear what he wants to share with you. We do have ownership immediately after this service, so if you are here and you've not yet taken our ownership class, we would love to have you join us. If you didn't sign up for it, that's okay. We still have a seat ready and available for you, so you can go grab some more coffee and donuts and then go to room B, and we'll start that after at 10:30 when this service is over and the next one is beginning. Then next Sunday, we have baptism. So if you have not yet taken your next best step after giving your life to Christ, which we believe here is baptism, we would love for you to sign up for that. If you have questions about that, please just ask one of us in the lobby. We are happy to help you. You can sign up on one of the computers out there as well. we have our group link coming up. And basically, that is going to be next Sunday. Next Sunday. And it's just we call it a group link. It's just the lobby will be full of all the life groups that you have an option to pick from to join this coming semester. Life groups is where it's at here with our community. We believe that life change happens in the context of small groups, and that's what life groups are. So we would love for you to take some time next Sunday to walk around, pick a group that meets your schedule. Remember, we'll get more into this, and we do talk about it in ownership. You can try all the groups until you find the one that fits you, but there will be one that fits you. And if there isn't one, come and find me, and we will make one for you that does fit. I honestly know that life group is so important and it's so valuable. So there's that. And then we have our ladies Bible study kicking off. So we will have our kickoff with a new year, new mindset. So what the Lord has just been giving me is that we need to dominate 2023. And the way we're going to do that, ladies, is we're going to change our mindset. So we're going to start that off with an event on the 17th, and then we are going to start our Bible study. That will be on Tuesdays from 6:30 to 8:30. There's more information online for you about that, and we're going to be walking through an amazing Bible study. Do not give the enemy a seat at your table. So that's going to be great. Then the men will have a breakfast coming up on the 28th, and then we have our in-check financial class that will be starting also, and that starts on the 29th. All of this wonderful information can be found online, and we also posted a lot of stuff on our community Facebook page for Fort Worth campus. If you have not yet joined that, come and find me and I'll help you get connected with that. You guys, if you need prayer, please come forward and receive that. If you've not yet joined or taken the ownership class, please stick around and do that. If you need anything, please remember it. Fill out this card with a prayer request. Drop it in the donation stations on your way out. We believe in you. We're cheering you on. We want the best for you, and we know that you guys are going to do amazing things. We love you. Have a great week. Go out, invest, and we'll see you next week.